All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to the Future is Clear Teach Like It's 2045 online conference. I appreciate you guys joining us. My name is Scott Carr from CISA2, and I'm honored to be your host for the next couple days. Thank you for being here, whether you're joining us live or checking out the recordings later. We're certainly glad that you've chosen to invest your time in this important work. The idea behind this conference a while back, where we were going to do it in person, but we shifted it to online, had a high demand of people wanting to move that direction so we could have a larger footprint. But the idea behind it was simple. Career community life readiness isn't just a program, it really is a mindset. So it's more about reimagining how we engage students, empower educators, and build strong connections with our communities in really striving to prepare every learner for success, both now and in the future. So over the next couple of days, you're going to hear from some real innovative leaders, educators, and even a student voice who are challenging the status quo and putting bold ideas into action. Our hope is that you'll walk away with not just new strategies, but also some fresh inspiration and maybe even some new partners in this work. We've got a lot of great speakers coming your way over the next couple of days. We'd also like to take a moment here to express our gratitude to the sponsors who have helped make this event possible. Those include Define Learning, G10 Innovations, Lakeshore Learning, NASCO Education, and Pitsco Education. Their commitment to supporting educators and students plays a crucial role in advancing career community life readiness. Thank you for your partnership and support. Remember, if you cannot attend a session live, all sessions are going to be recorded, and we'll be offering a follow-up networking event to continue these important conversations, so look for that down the road. Thank you again for being a part of this experience. So let's dive in, stay curious, and keep asking ourselves, what does it truly mean to teach like it's 2045? Appreciate you guys joining us. All right, Mitch is going to take over and talk a little bit about housekeeping. I do want to thank our marketing team, Mitch, Alyssa, and Phil. They have done an outstanding job pulling this together with me. Thank you, Mitchell. Your team is outstanding. So take it away, Mitch.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, no, happy to be here and really grateful for everyone else being a part of this as well. Before we get started, like Scott said, just wanted to cover a few housekeeping things. There are breaks in between all the sessions and unique Zoom links for each of the sessions. So please use that conference guide that was emailed yesterday, emailed this morning, as your main access point for the schedule, the links, the session descriptions, and more. In most of these sessions, attendees will not be able to turn off or turn on their cameras or unmute. The presenters will lead the discussion. There will be opportunities for attendee engagement through Q&A in most of the sessions. So use that Q&A function. And some of the sessions will be a little bit more of an open forum where folks will be able to unmute and use their video. Like I said, please use that Q&A button in the Zoom to submit questions during the sessions. Moderators and presenters will both be monitoring those spaces to address those questions as time allows. And don't forget to check out the digital tote bag that was emailed this morning. Those include presentation slide decks, a bunch of other resources. We're going to continue to update things in that tote bag that was shared in this morning's email as well. If you do encounter any issues during these next couple of days, feel free to contact communications@cisa2.org. That's communications with an S at cisa2.org. Our whole communications team is available, help make the best experience possible and make sure everything goes smoothly. We want to make sure that you're able to attend these sessions, particularly if you're able to attend them live. And all sessions, on that note, will be recorded and shared with registrants after the event. So if you're not able to attend a session, we'll still have that opportunity to share that recording with you. And then a virtual networking event will be available at a later date. So stay tuned for more details on that, like Scott alluded to. But ultimately, thanks for being here. And, we're looking forward to a great couple of days. Scott, take it away.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it. All right, let's start session one here. The title for it is Wisconsin Career Readiness Standards, How It All Started, with Mike Trimberger and Mike Snowberry. So we've got Mike and Mike in the morning here for you guys. I really love it. Let me just give you real brief information here, and the two of them can share a little bit more on how they got where they're at. Mike Trimberger is the superintendent at Random Lake School District. Mike is a great thought leader and a real progressive leader in career readiness space, acting as the lead chairperson for the state of Wisconsin and the career readiness standards, which are new to our state this year. Mike Snowberry is the Director of Learning Services at Luxemburg-Casco School District and is one of the top leaders in career and work-based learning, leading the way with youth apprenticeship in his region and the state. Really appreciate you guys joining us, and I'll turn it over to the two of you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Scott. Good morning, everyone. I hope you have your cup of coffee. Mike in the morning. Hopefully we give you a little entertainment, a little nugget here to take from. But Scott, thank you very much for this honor to really keep leading this change. Couldn't be prouder of the state of Wisconsin and the work that we're doing, the work that you've done. Really, it's about creating an army of people that all are thinking similarly about how we can help our students keep moving forward. We'll get into a lot of this, a little bit more background from myself. I always describe myself as a self-described recovering special ed teacher. I was self-contained EBD for a few years. And then from there, I was a middle school AP, an elementary principal, which we have elementary principals out there, one of my foundational beliefs that I got as an elementary principal was asking students what they wanted to be in a low poverty school. You get answers like, I want to work in a grocery store, I want to work as a garbage collection, or I want to be police or fire science. And we need to do something different. That elementary principal position helped inform what we did as a high school principal. I was at South High for 6 years, where we were one of the first pathway schools and did some really great things with kids. So last 8 years, been at Random Lake. We're going to talk a lot about Random Lake, and Mike's going to talk about Luxembourg as we go. But thank you again for being here. Really excited to share our journey and hopefully connect with other people's journeys throughout the next couple days, because there's great stuff going on here. But Mike, you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been at Luxemburg-Casco for 20 years, 20 plus actually, as a teacher, as a principal, as a curriculum director, athletic director, kind of done it all here. And then I'm also a transformational leader at Initiative One. I want to thank them for providing us some free content to give to provide you with. I really do three things, and you'll understand. I work on academics, making sure our academics are amazing, our career readiness is amazing, and then our social emotional learning, or we call it being the best version of yourself. And so we really think it's important to, what we're going to talk about today is a lot about who are you and what defines you.
I figured. There we go. Okay.
So today's agenda, here's what we're going to do. How did we get here? Wisconsin career readiness standards, real world examples, and then leading adults through the change process. So just a little bit more. When you align your purpose and your priorities, you'll start to change results. We need to reinvent ourselves every 5 to 7 years. That's the challenge. And, we don't want to teach one lesson 30 times, or we don't want to teach for 30 years the same way we did every single year and really have 1 year of experience. So we want to start thinking differently. We'll briefly touch on topics in our presentation today. But we will have at the end of today, from I believe it's 3:30 to 4:30, an open question and answer session. So it's your agenda, and you can ask us anything you would like and make the topic what you want it to be. And then we also want to hear about your expertise, because we know that there's other experts out there. And then how can we synergize? And I feel always rejuvenated after meeting with other people and be like, "Ooh, I really liked what somebody else was doing," and it just helps you get there. So the other thing is this will be interactive as well. We have 4 questions that are going to be coming at you, and we're going to go at a pretty quick pace, not getting into depth. And so we will get started.
Yeah, so please keep thinking, and really looking forward to that 3:30 time where hopefully we get into a really good discussion about things happening around the state. But let's talk about this all kids go to college narrative. Through my PhD and doing some research, I found that we can actually blame the Russians for this narrative in public education. And it really gets back to Sputnik. And if you look at the history, why did we want all of our kids to go to college? It was actually a 1959 law that was called the National Defense Education Act, where our government said we needed more kids in science and math, and it pushed all students to college. So now, what are we, nearly 80 years later? We're saying that might have been a little bit short-sighted. And as we're rediscovering ourselves, like Mike said, we should be looking every 3 to 8 years. We need to look at, we've been under this narrative for way too long, and we have to find different ways. And Mike, you want to talk about some of the different ways we should be looking at this?
So why do we need to change? So this is from the Wisconsin Workforce Development of, the state of Wisconsin, roughly 19% of jobs require a 4-year degree or more, 1.5% require a master's degree, and 1.5% require a doctorate. Nationally, it's about 30%. We're a very heavy manufacturing state as that is. So, as we think about this, the college for all, are we helping students find degrees, or careers in our current system? And we really want to help them shift to thinking about what career do I want to do first, and then find the pathway through the education. And so just a different way we've changed our metric here is I like to think about at age 23 and age 28, if I was to call up a student who graduated from here, how have I set them up financially? How have we empowered them to navigate this process and their plans?
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the non-example. I like to joke, I was born in the 1900s, right? And for those of you that were born in the 1900s, you might know who this is. This might be one of the coolest cats around, Michael Knight. He drove a car that talked, one of the coolest things around. And as a 12, 13-year-old, I had thick hair, and I wanted nothing more than to look like Michael Knight. We're both Michaels, so I'm like, how do I look like this guy? And um, taking some advice from my grandma and my mother, they suggested I get a perm. Okay, so I bring this picture out because I want to show you how this clown here found a way to spend $250,000 on my brain to get my bachelor's degree. And I want to talk a little bit about how this child of the 1900s that lived through this all kids go to college narrative, how it looked for me. I was first generation college student. I didn't have a lot of resources on how to do it. Side note, I was also still am 6'7", 325, and I was going to be a professional left tackle in the NFL someday. So that was my career aspirations leaving in 1993. And unbeknownst to me, as I'm going off to college, I always kind of also joke that I invested a Ferrari into my head to get my bachelor's degree, right? Back then, $250,000 could get you a pretty cool sports car. So let's look a little bit at how my journey through the Wisconsin UW and private school systems looked and how I spent $250,000. And let's think of that as we think about our own students. So I started off at a D2 school in Concordia University. At that time, I thought I was still going pro. I went there to play football, and when they asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, I looked at their pamphlet and said, "Oh, I see you have engineering. I wouldn't mind driving a train." Okay, well, after about a semester, I found out that the engineering classes I was taking didn't drive trains and actually required a lot of math and a lot of things that I didn't really care for. And not having any kind of mentors to help me with, and finding out I was paying nearly $60,000 a year to go to school to play football, I decided maybe I need to go somewhere else and follow my passions. So at this time, I switched over and I thought, okay, I'm going to go to UW Stevens Point. My passion was the outdoors. I love fishing. I was going to maybe get into fish studies, something with DNR. I go through all the hoops to transfer and do all those great things. And I'll never forget my first day sitting in a pit class at UW Stevens Point, and the professor with 300 students asked, "How many of you students are getting into soils management?" About 10 students raised their hands. I personally was not. And the professor went on to say, you're the only ones that will get a job when you graduate. And at that point, I decided, wow, I just came to a college where I'm not going to get a job. So, what should a 19-year-old that wants to be a professional football player do? Probably go to practice every day and not go to class. That's what got me to drop out of school after a year and go back to my center 2 years later and taking some time to reflect, like, how am I going to do something that's going to be impactful for the rest of my life? Fortunately for me, I had a brother who was an EBD student who gave a lot of credit for his graduating to his teacher, Mr. Granke, which I always put his name out there. Because of Mr. Granke, I decided I wanted to get an education. At this point, I'm probably close down to $100,000, but I finally figured out what the heck I wanted to be. So I got my associate's degree from the center in Sheboygan, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to try playing football and go into the UW Oshkosh, and I'm going to be a special ed teacher. And it was great. First semester was going wonderful. I did everything I needed to, had good grades. And I get the second semester and I apply for the College of Education. The College of Education tells me your grades from Stevens Point are so horrible, you're going to spend the next 18 months retaking the classes that you failed when you were having fun up at Stevens Point. So again, transferred, figured, well, that's not going to fit my timeline. So I decided to go to a small little private school where I knew the nuns would make sure they took care of me and made sure they kept me straight. So Silver Lake College, I went there for another 2.5 years, finally got my bachelor's degree, secondary special ed. And from there, that's when things started to get exciting. At this point, finally figured out what my path was, spent 3 years in the classroom and said, you know what, I want to do more. Went to Cardinal Stritch, spent 18 months, got my admin degree, and loved working with kids at the principal level, finding out how much fun it was to change large organizations and structures, that I finally ended up with my PhD, and over $250,000 worth of student loans, 7 colleges, 8 years, 3 college majors. And I refer to myself as possibly the dumbest PhD you'll find. So hopefully that's what you signed up for today. But what we want to do for the rest of our session here is talk about what can we do to make a path like this a little less curvy. So I want you catch up here. Mike, is this your area?
Yep, I'm ready. So we're going to give you a minute or two here to put something in the chat for us. So here's your first question. I want you to think about your entire graduating class, your seniors that are coming up, from your top students, because we like to say, oh, we have one student that's over here, one student that's over here. But what about all students? That's really our focus. If you were to ask a graduating senior in your school district, what would they say their purpose for attending school over their 13 years is? So let's fill up the chat here. I already got one response. And if you have a team, we just need one response from your team. We don't need everybody responding.
Some good answers in here. Be prepared for the future, like that. Because I have to, Scott? Yes. We have a few of those students here. Yes, yes. Perfect. Keep
And you can go ahead
adding.
and finish up your answers here, and we're going to keep on moving. So
Perfect. So let's really get into what we're here for today, and a little bit of history about the state of Wisconsin. Like I said earlier, I really feel like our state is taking a proactive approach to trying to give purpose to school, right? The compulsory attendance rules and kids coming to school just to learn, we know that's not going to work anymore. We need to find reasons that they want to be here. And as you can see, as a child of the 1900s, we already had education for employment established, but schools weren't really in that vein. 2017, I think, was really a big moment for our state when we started talking about academic career planning, what we needed to do for our graduates. And really, with 7 years of success, the Wisconsin Career Readiness Standards that were just established for this year take the hard work that we did from 2017 and double down in how schools we can create a foundation around learning, around being prepared for the future, and doing it around the career preparedness.
So if I could summarize what employers are looking for in basically three things, three items. We want students to be able to solve problems. We want students to be able to make decisions in a team. If they can do those three things, they're going to be really successful. And that's where the analytical thinking, being curious, where do we learn the most? When we collaborate with others, right? And so my question to us, do our classrooms look like that? Are we preparing our students for that real world experience of how do we collaborate in a team? And so, as I shared with you, we want to reinvent ourselves every 5 to 7 years, which is why they update the standards, collaborate with businesses, and they want you to think differently of being self-reflective in our teaching. Where are we trying to take people? And so you need to always step outside. And I always tell people our goal at Luxemburg-Casco is to become a learning organization. And meaning that I'm learning every day, every minute. I'm in a classroom and I'm really trying to continue to grow from year one, day one, till the day that I retire. And I hope that when you retire, you continue to learn and find purpose in your life.
So a little bit of what about the Wisconsin Career Readiness Standards. About 2.5 years ago, DPI brought together people from education, people from our CISAs, DPI, employers, individuals from manufacturing, from all different industry sectors, and just sat down and said, what if we were going to create a comprehensive K-12 set of skills that we want to have all schools implement, what would that look like? And that's what the Wisconsin Career Readiness Standards are. And we're going to go through, there's three big strands that we identified that we grouped everything together. And it was career ready, life ready, and learning ready. And as you go in, we're just kind of briefly touching on these. Please dig in. The nice thing is everything that you see here is broken down with I can, we will statements all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade. But as we just hit these at a glance here, the Wisconsin Career Readiness Standards, we had so much success in 2017 with our academic career planning. We were very, very deliberate when we said, you know what, there's been a lot of success with the Know, Explore, Plan, Go. It makes sense. We know how that works. We have a lot of our school counselors are doing wonderful work with this. Let's make sure that when we look at this strand, it's really about the Know, Explore, Plan, Go. And you see that unlike sometimes in education, we think of one way and then we go the other. This is doubling down on the success that we had when it gets to career ready. Next, we grouped these next set of skills around learning ready. We know schools are doing this, but how can we put some of these skills and find ways to create a scope and sequence K through 12 that we can have academic skills, critical thinking, like Mike just talked about, have an innovative mindset and technology skills. This should be a toolbox for our staff to find ways, our teaching staff to find ways to put some of these tools, some of these skills in at each grade level. These aren't taught in isolation, but these are taught as part of what our regular curriculum looks like. And the last strand we have, and this is becoming more and more important, is life ready skills. You can look at our library and look at all of the different standards that are thrown at us. There's technology standards, there's global citizenship, there's IT, there's all these different standards, and what we try to do with Wisconsin Career Readiness Standards is take the best of social emotional, take the best of global competence, take the best of learning ready, and put them into kind of a boiled down what is the most important if we were to ask a subsection of our state what these look like. So you can see with Life Ready, we want our students to be have global competence. We want them to be leaders. We want them to be self-aware. And what you have now in this next iteration of academic career planning from 2017 are a set of standards that really we can put a foundation on our school. I've had so many great conversations with many leaders out there. There's districts now that are making their core values of their district the career ready, life ready, and learning ready. You're going to see in a little bit how Michael and I have done things similar in our organizations around this. But we're hoping that these will give you some tools as you're looking at how to do these in your organization.
So I'd say it to you a little bit differently of what Mike was sharing. We've put so much emphasis on academics that we've missed the boat on our social emotional learning and the career readiness. And can we put the same amount of emphasis and divide it into thirds and put those all together? And then when you're thinking about it, what is the reason why someone typically gets fired from a job if you talk to employers? It's their social emotional skills. It has nothing to do with what their ability to learn for the most part. And so we want to shift that thinking of this is why we need this skill set. So the I can process is about a student-led process. That's really important. And you want the student to figure that out, that they can do that. The second process or part of this is we will, as leaders and as teachers, we will do this with our students. And we call that transformational versus transactional. I'm just going to tell you what to do and you go do it versus I want you to start thinking differently about where are you trying to go? Because as soon as you make that switch and that student's on purpose, you don't have to tell them to go do stuff. They just start doing it on their own. And that really is the shift in purpose that we're looking for.
And let's just kind of at a high level glance, look what happens when you help students find their purpose. So in Random Lake, we've been on this journey for 8 years. We've been trying to do things to make this such a student led organization and student based organization that we ask them, what do you want to be? And I will tell you, this year's of graduates, I couldn't be more proud of. We're starting to see the fruits of our labor. As I look at this graduates this year, 100% of our students will graduate with some sort of career experience, getting out of our school, getting onto an employer's job site to look at what it looks like, to get those experiences, make sure they like it or they don't like it. 93% of our graduates this year will leave here with at least one dual credits. We have 30% of our students that have spent 450 hours or more doing a youth apprenticeship where they've actually spent and worked with their employers for a really significant amount of time. And the thing is, as we're talking about purpose, we're starting to see some things in our district that we've never seen. In the last 3 years, we've had 2 National Merit Scholars, which is what the top 1% of graduates in the United States. We have 10% of our students got a 29 or higher on their ACT, and we just had our perfect ACT score ever. So as we're talking about purpose and we're talking about careers, it's not taking away from our academics. We're finding that it's really giving our students the advantage that we're trying to give them.
So last year we had 101 seniors out of our 151 participate in youth apprenticeship. We averaged between 55 and 65% of our students participating. So we're a high school of about 630 kids. Mike is a smaller high school. So people will say, well, how can you do this in small high schools? You can do this no matter where you're at. And that's what we want to encourage people. Where there's a will, there's a way. We also partnered with Bellin College. And so here's 2 graduates. We partnered with them 2 years ago, and they have 35 credits or more, 42. And the students are going to graduate in 2 years because Bellin College has an accelerated path. And both of these students are also working at Bellin Health as well through the youth apprenticeship. in the hospital. So they're treated just like a normal employee. And there's some amazing stories. Bellin Health has been amazing. They have over 100 kids in the youth apprenticeship. We meet every other Tuesday, and I have the honor to mentor businesses and support them and to do really cool things with them for career readiness as well. And they're one of the leaders in the area. So it's been a great relationship and the ability to meet tons of businesses.
So now let's talk a little bit. Our first question was, what was the student's purpose, right? Now, we gave you two questions. You can answer one, you can answer both, but we want you to take some time and reflect that if you were to ask the majority of your staff what their purpose of your organization was, or what they thought the purpose of their job is, how do you think they would answer? And we may have some from elementary, some in middle school, some in high school. Think of the majority of the staff you work with and give us some feedback. What do you think is your staff's purpose? And please put that in the chat. See some good ones rolling in here, and it's like we would expect. It's all over the board. Some are saying prepare students for college, prepare students for whatever they want, college and career ready, core academics. Yeah, these are all great answers. All great answers. And really, we want you to just take some time to reflect, because as we look at purpose, as we build on purpose, that is our goal as we go through the last leg of how we want to talk a little bit about how our journeys went. Any reactions, Michael, before we move on here?
We are good. I will share with you, we've made a major change every year. And with that, when you make major shifts, like adding youth apprenticeship in 3 years, we went to 65%. Staff start to like, well, what's going to happen to my job? You start to get this immense pushback. And so, or we have kids going to college programs. And so it's interesting when you really become bold. We want you to prepare you for resistance that's going to happen with adults because they're worried about their own personal jobs and where we're going. That's some of the things that stop us from transitioning into our new worlds and where we need to be.
Very nice. So why don't we talk a little bit about how Mike and I have built purpose in our organization. So you heard me talk a little bit about the core values of life ready, career ready, and learning ready. Well before these were established in the school district Random Lake, we had a vision statement of providing tomorrow's leaders with a distinct advantage. And the way we provide that advantage is through strong classrooms, strong culture, and strong community connections. Now, if you were to look past what does this mean for strong classrooms, we tell our teachers that we need to be part of a professional learning community. We need to collaborate. We need to have guaranteed valuable curriculum. And we need to be collaborating in every avenue we can. Two, strong culture. We're a strong PBIS. We need to teach behaviors we want to see. We reward the behaviors we want to see. And we make sure we don't assume students have those skills coming in, and we spend a lot on social and emotional to make sure that our students have those skills as well. And then strong community connections to us was academic career planning. We need to have our community help us invest in our students, be it through academic career planning, be it through youth apprenticeship, be it through virtual interviews. We work diligently to make sure that our students have connections multiple times through their time in our system having this. And we have an organizational purpose that if you were to ask any staff member in Random Lake, they would tell you these are our three core values. In that way, making sure that when you ask me, what is our purpose? I would say these are our three purposes for our entire school. Mike, you want to talk a little bit about Luxemburg-Casco?
Sure. So you can see how ours intertwine a little bit. Back probably about 10 years ago, we created a new mission and vision statement for our district. And when we did that, it took us about 6 months. really and there's probably a group of 15 to 20 of us that did that. And that was the first thing we did because we needed to know, where are we going? If you don't know where you're going and what your purpose is, you're really going to go off in multiple different directions. And so the example I'm going to share with you is I want you to think about a cone, and all of our in our stuff is our values, our strong classrooms, our strong culture, our community, our career readiness, academics are in that cone. Those are the most important things that we do every single day. And what happens is we have to have a laser-like focus to do that work. If we don't, what happens is we get drama that's around us. We get all these other issues that really try to distract us from being on purpose. And being on purpose is probably the most important thing we do from an organization and from an individual. So we've been hitting on purpose from really two different areas of the individual and the organization, and everybody's aligning and rowing the boat in the same direction. I would tell you at Luxemburg-Casco, one person was rowing forward and one was rowing backwards, and we were spinning in circles. So, until you get alignment, you're going to struggle.
And this is a great slide from Initiative 1 around change. And, after doing this enough, looking at the comments again and just kind of going through as Mike was talking, we can see that our organizations are all in different places, but there's a lot in this room that are here with us today that are already seeing this as a way we should be looking at schools. And as we're doing this, you may be in the classroom as a teacher, you may be a curriculum director, you may be a principal, maybe a school counselor. This Army has many different facets, right? And you have to feel, how can you affect change from where you're at? And the first thing that we need to be cognizant of is when we're creating change is to create it in a safe environment. I can tell you that this is a paradigm shift. There's going to be individuals as you're creating this change. We just had a crucial conversation no more than 2 weeks ago because our students and their choices in doing more youth apprenticeships have actually lowered the enrollments in some areas where our staff are now fearing that, well, am I going to be able to offer these classes? Well, it's youth apprenticeships' fault because we don't have as many students. So those are opportunities to talk about safety and let our staff know, you know what? No, you're still safe. Because of this, we're able to offer classes at a lower enrollment in these classes, some of those things. So we want to talk a little bit here about how to impact change, but also as we're doing this, create a safe environment that we know that all of our adults have the best intentions in mind. We have different ideologies on how to do it, but how can we come to that focus and come to an area that we're all pointing our organization in the same direction?
So we, through Initiative 1, implement what are called trust accelerators. Some of you would know them as group norms, and these are Luxemburg-Casco administrative group norms. We recently updated them in 2024. So we talk about them all the time because it's important. And so I'm going to hit a couple of those, but so one of the things we try to be is solution focused and not problem focused or sitting there and complaining. There's no whining. We don't believe in complaining because it's not going to solve the problem. That's all drama, and drama doesn't get you anywhere. We also talk about defensiveness. When you find out and you're leading a group and somebody gets defensive, and we call that the little person comes out, you're who you are when you're a little kid and you start pouting. And all of a sudden that shifts the safety in the room and people aren't going to engage in conversation. So it's so important as you're going through this process to think about, are people willing to lean in and share what we call their last 5% of thinking? And so when Mike and I and Scott meet, I feel like we just met, this year, and we're able to just really share those thoughts and not be offended by what anyone would say. And what happens is I would say this: if you're driving home and you're sitting at the stoplights and you're looking around and you're having a conversation with yourself, and the neighbor, the person right next to you, sees you in the other car, it's because you probably didn't deliver the mail. Okay. And that's what we call that, like, share what you're thinking. Okay. That's a shift in how we do it. We also don't have titles. So as the curriculum director, I expect my instructional coaches, the teachers, to push on me. If you're something you disagree with me, tell me why, tell me what we need to change. The best ideas come from the classrooms when they're on purpose. That's really important. Is it convenient for the adults? That's what you have to use your sniff test for. Or is this really about making it better for students? And so that's kind of the biggest shift as you're going through this process of being able to do that. Otherwise, if you don't know if you don't have trust accelerators, there's going to be issues, and there's going to be meetings outside of the meetings, and there's going to be meetings before the meeting and after the meeting, and you don't know what those conversations are. You can't have that. It's not okay to have those meetings.
So as we start anything, the most important is having that vision. The shared vision is something that we talk about in education a lot. Mike shared an initiative one stat that said in our organizations, 1 to 3% of individuals are really truly visionaries. They're looking ahead, and there's a lot of others that use those visionaries to point their star and how they do that. So being in this room probably means you're one of the visionaries. You're one of the people that can look ahead 3 to 5 years and say, you know what, this is where we need to go. So make sure you cast a vision. They need to be, you need to be at the table. You need to find ways that you can continue to reinvent yourself. And you're here because of that. And what we'd like to do is talk a little bit about how we actually, kind of blocking and tackling of how we got into the changes that we have once we had that vision.
So as I was thinking about our vision here at Luxemburg-Casco, probably the area that I utilized was thinking of it through the career clusters. And so do I have a pathway from the beginning of where a kid has little experience to taking some classes, to navigating all the way up to taking college classes, to as well as taking being a part of the youth apprenticeship in every single career cluster. Now, I understand the youth apprenticeship doesn't have every single area hit yet for youth apprenticeship. So in my mind, our students, we call it a 3+1 high school. So we have students who are in our auto or diesel program. They get 1 year of a technical diploma before they leave high school. We built 2 of those programs here. Or we also have a 2+2 high school where we want kids to leave with 60 college credits before they leave high school, because we want to lessen the amount of debt that we have for students. And so every year, as I was going through this, I built a new program. The latest program that I just built was a firefighter program. We wrote a grant between 4 high schools. And so we got PPE equipment, and I think we have 5 kids. Probably one of the coolest stories I can tell you is all of a sudden I hear beep, 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 beep. I'm in the high school standing by the guidance counselor, and here goes a kid running down the hallway. And 2 seconds later, I hear beep, 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 and another kid just flying down the hallway because they go to calls. So we treat them just like adults. And I think one of the biggest things, and we'll get into that with the youth apprenticeship, is high school kids don't work on a family farm anymore. So they struggle because they don't have that work ethic yet. So as you're casting your vision, my question back to you here is, do you have a program through every single career cluster that a kid can experience everything that they need in their life to figure out, what do I want to do when I grow up? And so those are some of the things. And I would tell you that we had to partner with businesses. I've probably given over 200 business tours. The reason why is because we're more of a generalist, but if I want a kid to be a machinist, the neighboring business has a $4 million machine down the road that they get to work on. Or I go to the hospital to learn about this, or I go wherever it is, because they're going to get to that specialty. And when that kid figures it out, also they start trying harder in school as well.
So and I'm sure there's some in our audience that are in the tech ed in the CTE area, and you know what? You've been getting this. That's why you're in the profession you're at. But one of the things we did with the Wisconsin Career Readiness Standard is we need all teachers to see that the pathway, the concept around career development, isn't just in tech ed, isn't just in our A classes. It needs to be in our math. It needs to be in our science and our Englishes. We need to find ways to braid these into all of our areas. And one of the things I want you to think as you're going through this is if our CTE teachers are the ones that get this, how do we help our math or science and English teachers? See, it's not about just math. Math is important. Reading is very important. But how do we put it in a context around careers that we can really give students purpose and they can see why learning math is important?
So utilizing that same lens of the vision, taking those dual credit classes and figuring out a way to run them through each career cluster is also an excellent idea. So we're going to give you some K-8 experiences of the vision. So our high school tech ed teachers, we have an amazing facility for manufacturing as well. We probably have over $600,000 worth of equipment in there some of it was donated. And we have some great partnerships, but we wanted our community to see that and the students to see that as well. So we did an elementary night and we had over 500 total parents and students as part of this. And I think we had probably 50 stations. So here's an idea for you. We also do what's called Careers on Wheels. And Careers on Wheels is where we do it with our K-5 elementary students. And you can see down in the bottom right-hand corner, the pictures with all the wheels. And the kids go from station to station to station. We do it from kindergarten all the way up and we rotate the stations. And so we usually have about 30 businesses here that help students start, thinking about careers. It's not we want you to choose, we just want you to start thinking about it. This, as I was kind of sharing with you, this is a parent guide or help for high school experiences. So what should a high school student and a parent, how can I help them navigate the world of all the steps that I need to go through as I'm doing this? So how can I partner with a parent? And if I give them one, hey, if you want to be a part of the Healthcare Academy, that's what this one is about. You can take this and you can follow this pathway. Now, we still have to build. So we're still in the infancy of this. We still have to build the rest of our career cluster pathways out of the experiences to share with our parents, but we need to increase our parent engagement as well. So part of that is, and I have a document that I can share out with you. It's actually linked in the PowerPoint. So if there's anything that you guys want from us, please feel free to ask for that. And as I shared with you, we had 3 students in youth apprenticeship and I was a little frustrated. So I decided to write my own grant, do my own thing. And then we went from 2 schools to 7 schools to, I don't know, we're probably at 27 to 30 high schools now. And we went from probably 200 kids to up to 1,500 kids in a total of 6 years, 7 years. And so it's just, how do you help and how do you multiply this and how do you make changes? And this is obviously one of my passions, as you can tell, that I really want all kids to experience this work-based learning, because if we screw up, you turn into, that was a really expensive adventure and you have a Ferrari in your head, and that's not okay, right? And so that's why Mike, we synergize so much together, because we're not okay with a poor result.
And if I could add with that, as we go to this next one, you find out very quickly when you're working with the community, there's nothing as clean as district lines or city lines. Just like Michael with increasing the number of schools, this becomes something that becomes a collaborative effort between districts working together, really kind of using that it takes a village to raise a child mentality.
So we have 2 high school counselors for 660 kids. And so the problem I was trying to solve was, we are not very good at helping kids figure out what they want to do when they grow up, right? And so I needed to add more resources, people to help figure that out. So when I figured out how the youth apprenticeship worked, I shifted. Harvard did a study and they basically said, I think it was back in the 80s or the 60s, I got to look up the article, but that it should be 250 to 1. Today in our world, the importance of figuring it out is at an all-time high, because somebody could end up in so much debt that they're not going to be able to dig their way out. And so by doing this, we now have 3 full-time people, which it's, now we have 1 to 200, which makes a huge difference. My dream would be to have another career coach in our school, Mike and I are lobbying to get more money in the youth apprenticeship program because of the impact that it makes in kids, right? And I would share this quick story. Student goes into a youth apprenticeship, fails, and this isn't what I want to do. In our world, the business thinks they failed, and we say, no, that's a win because we just saved that kid a lot of money.
So time for audience participation. As you can see now, Mike and I, we've kind of now gotten into, we need employers to fit the vision that we're trying to do. So I'd like you to take a minute and reflect on, what do you think the average community member or employer would say the purpose of your school or your organization is? You could put that in the chat. I'm going to give it just a minute. We're down to the last 10 minutes here. I knew Mike and I would have no problem filling up an hour, right? So what do you think your employers, what do you think your community members believe the purpose of your school is? Great answers. We're going to keep rolling. Please put them in. We want this to be reflective. We're going to look at this for our 3:30 session later on. So keep putting them in, and this will help us really be ready for 3:30. So go ahead, Mike.
So, how do you make a purpose, a vision, mission come alive? And so communicating to your businesses, to staff, to students is really important that they also know what the answers are. So Mike's going to take you through a few of the slides that he has here and talk about how do you bring that to life.
So just real quickly, you can't leave anything to chance. As you look at it, we're very descriptive. What our district vision is, you can see there, what our mission is, and what our core values. But as an organization, we went even farther to talk about, what does strong classrooms look like if I'm a student? What does strong culture look like if I'm a community member? What does strong community connections look like if as a parent? So we took the stakeholders and we created belief statements, and we created the strong classrooms, the strong school culture, and the strong community connections, and to define, what does that mean as a student? What does that mean as a staff member? What does that mean as a parent and part of the community? We wanted to be descriptive on, what does this mean? How do you help us meet our mission and our vision? So we have these, and we use these belief statements as the way we kick off every year. We rotate. We go between each year. We have a different emphasis. Last year was strong classrooms. Next year is strong culture, strong community connections. And we just kind of like a flywheel, try getting more and more horsepower as we're trying to get more and more people in our organization all thinking the same way.
So conflict is something that happens, and conflict management is a gift. Okay. And so we're going to show you a couple minutes of a video here in a second. Just to give you a teaser, the video is in the link. You can watch the whole thing, because we're not here to sit and watch videos. We're here to try to be interactive. That's not what we want for you. But we want to kind of share that process. So being purposeful, intentional, and having really challenging conversations around the right things is important. So we're going to let Dr. Fred share a couple minutes here in this process. You might need to make it full screen, Mike.
So I've got a question. How many of you, and I'm probably wasting my time when I ask this question, have ever had drama in your team? I'm stunned. Let me talk to you. What I want to say today is that most leaders are scared to deal with conflict. And yet what we have seen is most teams do not struggle in reaching their highest level of performance because of a lack of talent, because of a lack of strategic planning, because of a lack of experience. What we have found is the number one factor that can cause a team or a relationship in a business setting to dissipate is the inability to deal with conflict. And what I want to show you very briefly in this process is that you can actually begin to take a completely different mindset in regard to the role of conflict. I want to suggest to you that conflict that is handled well can become a leader's best friend. In my past, one of my original partner and mentor worked with a gentleman by the name of Edwards Deming in Japan for 23 years. And when she was done, she came back and she led an award foundation called the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Foundation. And under Presidents Bush and President Clinton, she was the leading proponent of what great world-class teams look like. And as a very young man, she poured herself into me and began to teach me what separates great teams, great organizations from everyone else. And I'm going to give you two defining characteristics that set apart world-class teams and world-class organizations. And the simplicity of this is going to surprise you. Number one, world-class teams make decisions better than their competitors. It's how they make decisions. Most organizations do not make decisions, they react to the noise. Great organizations do not listen to the noise and make decisions based upon internal principle and internal non-negotiables. The second thing that sets aside great teams from everybody else is how do they solve problems? And specifically what I'm talking about is have they gotten rid of drama within their culture? Many of you have had clients whose organizations have been ripped apart by conflict. You know what drama is? All that drama is,
That a good place to stop right there, Mike? We're down to the
Perfect.
last 3 minutes. Okay.
Yep. And so that link is in our presentation, so please feel free to use that. And so the last one is change leadership, and you have to have a process and a way to think about it. So yes, this was a cliffhanger for you. The processes of change, and I know Scott has processes with his current schools that he uses, so hopefully this is helpful.
And I know we've all seen this helping us deal with change. This has been really foundational in my leadership is when we see that there's sabotage, when we see there's confusion, when we see there's anxiety, there is an element of change that we're leaving out. So as we're going through these really complex change, make sure that we identify that we have, the trust and the vision, the skills, the resources, the payoff, the action plan, and the shared values and beliefs. This is one of the things that when you're leading many, many adults, we need to make sure we have all of these elements.
So individual purpose and personal organizational purpose, we kind of have hit those pretty hard today. And, less than 1% of organizations are on purpose and really know where they're trying to go.
Awesome. So with 1 minute left, please answer this question. And the question is, what do you need to find the intersection between the students, the staffs, and the community purpose? That's, as we talk about purpose, that's what we're looking for. And as you log off and get ready for all these really great speakers that we have here in the next couple of days, leave us with a nugget on what you need, because we want to use this to see a lot of you at 3:30 and have more of a discussion and a lot less of this one-way conversation. So with that,
The last thing that I would share with you is if you liked the presentation once a month, Dr. Fred Johnson gives a free 45-minute leadership presentation, and the link is there. You sign up for that, and you can be a part of the May 16th one for free. It's virtual, just like this. And what it is one of the things I would encourage you is to always iron sharpens iron, or hanging around really good people pushes us to think differently. You need people like that to push us all the time and to think differently. And I feel like that is the biggest challenge that we all have. So that link is live when you get it. We'd love to see you join that group, and it's once a month. Scott,
Thank you,
what do you got
fellas.
for us?
Yeah, thank you very much. As Peter just mentioned in the chat there, join both of you today at 3:30. Peter will be moderating that, and I bet he's going to have a lot of questions for you, to be quite honest. And Peter is part of our conference tomorrow, where you'll see him talk about some great things with career readiness around portfolios. So thank you to Mike and Mike. Great information. And again, this afternoon, you have the opportunity at 3:30 to ask them questions. So appreciate the time. Everybody that's on right now, we start up again at 9:45 with Aaron Black out of Liberty Perry in Indiana. A great, great thought leader around this work. So hoping you join us then.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate you, and best of luck on your adventures.
Thanks, guys. See you, everybody.